Welcome back, everybody. Today we'll be going over Season 1, Episode 2 of The Twilight Zone, One for the Angels. In this episode, we will be following a street salesman named Lou Bookman and his meeting with death. And before we get into it, I just want to thank everyone who decided to view and subscribe from my last video. I did not think it would blow up the way it did. Oh, and if you want to see this video and my other videos uncensored, then you can go over to my other platforms where they'll be in the link tree in the description. Remember to like the video and subscribe for more of my content. But with all that out of the way, let's get started. We start out with Lou trying to sell his wares, with what we know later as Death watching him and taking notes. He gets back to his house, throws some candy to the kids, which is, in this day and age, looks a lot more problematic, I'll say, but also gives away a few of his toys he didn't sell as well. He gets back in his room, and all of a sudden he sees a man sitting in front of him. The man starts to read off all of his information and tells him he will be departing at midnight tonight. But before he can ask anything, Maggie knocks on his door. She asks him to fix her toy, and he does, but she can't see the man sitting in the chair and just thinks Lou is playing a game with her. The man tells him that only people that are meant to depart with him can see him. Lou starts to think that he's some kind of dishonest con man, but he finally shows him proof by killing one of his flowers just by tapping it. Finally realizing he is Death, he tells him that he will be going at midnight in his sleep, which is honestly not a bad way to go. Of course, Lou argues against this, but Death tells him there's only 3 ways to postpone his departure. The 3 reasons are if other people's lives will be at major risk if he dies, like family who relies on him, if he's going to benefit humanity relatively soon in some kind of way, or if he has some kind of unfinished business that he can complete in a reasonable amount of time. He chooses option 3 and tries to make some lame excuses, but finally settles on making a dream pitch so that the children he knows can be proud of him. Death relents and allows him to have an extension, so he can do this since it seems like it is a lifelong dream of his. But Lou tries to take advantage of this and basically tells him he is never going to do another pitch so he doesn't have to die. Lou basically starts to try to run away from Death, telling him that they made a bargain and that he will have to wait a long time till he can get him. Death starts to explain he doesn't seem to comprehend the consequences of what he is doing, and that he will be forced to take someone else in his stead. Lou then hears a car crash outside, and when he goes to look, Maggie was hit by a car. He checks on her and tells someone to get a doctor, but she now sees Death, and Lou sees him writing down in his notebook like he did for him earlier in the day. He tries to argue with him, saying he will go now, but Death simply ignores him. Once it gets close to midnight, Lou resolves to make sure he doesn't get to her on time. Lou again, once Death arrives, tries to make him take him instead in her place, but he says that changes can't be made by this point, and they already made their deal. So Lou decides to do a pitch to try to sell him some of his wares. And man, does he sell him a pitch. We see a montage of him spinning tales about his products, making Death literally look like he's sweating buckets, and at some point, he basically says, "Shut up and take my money." By the end, Lou was successful in delaying Death and making him miss his appointment, but because he finally made his ultimate pitch, his agreement with Death was finally fulfilled, and it's time for him to go. He collects his suitcase stand and tells him you never know who might need something up there, and Death does confirm that he made it, which is a nice thing to know since he does seem to be a genuinely nice guy. And we ended off there, so let's get on to the discussion of the episode. Now, this is a fairly simple episode, not much to talk about besides the characters themselves. The first character I want to talk about is Death, and all the world building put into him. He is played by Murray Hamilton, who passed in 1986 at age of 63. I liked his personality he gave Death, acting like a tired businessman who has gone through all this countless times before. Now, let's get on to the character of Death and his abilities we see here. He can only be seen by people who are going to die soon. He can teleport to wherever he wants to be. It seems by looking at a person, he can see all of their personal information that pertains to identifying them, so he does not make any kind of mistakes. And of course, he has Death's touch, being able to kill anything by touching it, and is probably why he needs to be with the person who is going to die at the right time, so he can touch them and give them death. Now let's talk about the rules he has to follow, which are he has to take the person he is scheduled to at the exact time they are allotted to. He can give extensions to people if their death will cause major suffering, I'm guessing if they have a family that depends on them, or if, like, they are taking care of a baby that will die if they pass in that moment. If they are on the verge of discovering a major benefit to humanity, which would be a reasonable reason to extend their due date. And the final one is, of course, unfinished business that they could complete in a reasonable time frame. Which I would say are all pretty good reasons to extend someone's life, at least for a little bit more. If he is the Death, I'm guessing he just has the ability to split himself into infinite versions of himself, since thousands of people die every day. The only other explanation is that he is just a single angel of death sent to get Lou. Now it seems like once he makes a deal with someone, he can't go back on it, but I have a theory that everything that happened was planned by Death to make sure Lou would come with him. My reasoning is that Death knows he had a soft spot for children, and used Maggie to guilt him into coming with him, and in the process gives him motivation to do his ultimate pitch to hold him up, ultimately making everyone happy in the process of everything. But now, let's get on to Lou. Lou seemed to be a simple man, wanting to just sell his wares and bring smiles to the people around him, especially the children in the neighborhood. He is played by Ed Wynn, who passed in 1966 at the ripe age of 79, and gave a great performance here. Of course, the part sticking out being when he was pitching Death all his wares at the end of the episode with superb body language and voice acting. Now about Lou himself, he seems like he doesn't have anything really interesting about him. He has no family, no enemies, no major relationships. He's just a content man, wanting to sell his wares that he creates and give smiles to the children. Which all works for the episode, but I wish we got a little more from him character-wise. We do see he is a little cheeky with him making a deal with Death and then never planning on fulfilling it. But then we see immediately after that he is a truly good person when Maggie comes to near Death, saying that he will go with Death right now to save her life, even if he doesn't get to do his ultimate pitch. Then we see, even at the end, he is still thinking of other people, bringing his suitcase stand just in case somebody needs something up where he's going. One other thing I found interesting in the episode is that Death says that people like Lou who die of natural causes are given some prep time before getting a warning before they die. But of course, people who die in accidents can't be warned because that would mess up things scheduling-wise. I wonder how people would react knowing they are going to die in a few hours. I think at first they would freak out, but most would eventually come to terms with it. I know I would freak out for maybe an hour, but eventually call all my loved ones, tell them I love them, and probably just visit my most beloved ones, spending the last few hours with them. That would be nice, and of course I might ask for a week or so extension to make sure all my finances and my will are in order to make my passing as easy as possible for my family. Alright, if you're still here, thanks for sticking around, and I would love to hear your opinions on the episode or anything else I talked about in the video. Remember to like the video and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And I guess I will see you guys later. Bye, guys.